Today we're taking a look at a new monitor, the Portkeys LH5H. So let's get into it. Hey, what's up? I'm Scott and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, thank you for watching. We do all kinds of unboxings, test tutorials, reviews, anything photo and video related. So if you like the content today, please do consider subscribing. Make sure you hit that little bell icon to get notifications for new content. So like I said, today we've got the new LH5H from Portkeys. Now this is a pretty attractive monitor for a pretty decent price. It's $299, which is $200 cheaper than the BM5. And the biggest difference is they're going to be that the BM5 has SDI connections. This does not. The BM5 is an all metal build. This is not. The BM5 is 2200 nits, while this is 1700 nit, but that's still very respectable and very bright and more than enough in a lot of situations. It's also going to be a little bit more efficient in terms of battery life because of that. But this does have a new user interface, and it does have HDMI in and loop out, which the BM5 actually doesn't have HDMI output. And this does have the ability to control your camera without any additional accessories. Like the original LH5T, for example, you needed a long arm controller. It was kind of a hassle and a lot of cables. This will be able to control your camera in the same way that BM5 does. It has a built-in little USB port, which is why I have these cables here. And you know, some other stuff too, but we're gonna get into that and look at this monitor. First, let's get it out of the box and see what's included with the kit. First off, you get this little, they say, warm prompt. It's just a little note that is letting you know that the user manual has been put into the attached USB disk with a PDF file. So it's gone paperless, which is nice, and paperless except for this, I guess. And then you got a nice hard case, which is like the P6, the BM5 as well. I like these cases. They look like they're pretty much exactly the same. So it's nice to have something to put this in to protect it when you're traveling. Under that, you've got some foam and some cables. And you've got this cable. It looks like a power cable. It's got that same kind of locking connection that you get on the BM5. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same, but it looks pretty much the same. It's nice. You just push it in and it locks, and then you pull it back to release it. It's kind of like a limo type cable. And then, you know, you've got DC barrel on the other side, which can plug into a lot of V-mount plates, for example. So that's nice for external power. You've got that USB drive, which they talked about, which you can use for the user manual. And then also afterwards, you can use it to load LUTs and stuff onto the monitor. Usually, I believe this should be LUT compatible. And that's about it. So let's get that out of the way. Now let's open up the actual box. It's got these little locks on 4 sides, I guess 3 sides, but it's got 4 locks. So you just kind of pull them open there, and there you go. It's the monitor itself, and that's it. And let's put the box aside. It's pretty nice, you know, you've got some foam in there. It's not any more than it needs to be. What I really like about these cases is that it's very form-fitting. So while it is protective and it's a kind of hard shell case, it's not super thick, but it's protective. It's not excessively large. I really like that. It's been really, really nice to tuck away into a bag, a small bag, even when you have it in the case. I really like that. And then this is the monitor itself, and first impressions is that it is nicer feeling than the original LH5H, which was very plasticky feeling. This feels like a little bit more weight. It's still very lightweight, especially compared to the all-metal BM5. I like the way that the kind of glass in the front goes all the way to the edge here, and there's not a lot of excess plastic. This is a touch screen, of course, and we'll check that out in a second. Otherwise, you've got your typical controls on the top, your 4 function buttons. You've got your menu open / up and down arrows, your exit button, and so on. And then you've got your off and on switch like that. On the side, this looks almost like a vent, I guess. I'm not sure if that's a vent, which means that it might have a fan in there. We'll see in a second. And then you've got a little notification here on the side, on the bottom, I should say, for that connection, which is your motor, camera control, or DC power 7 to 24 volts. So that should work with this cable that we were just talking about. Just find where it lines up, push it in and it locks, and then just pull this little sheath back to release it. Nice little cable there, and it's on the bottom if you're curious. Also on the bottom, while we're looking at that, you've got the USB port for the USB drive here. You've got a 1/4 inch screw thread, which looks like it's reinforced with some extra screws, and there's a little bit of an indentation on the side, which maybe can work with those kind of anti-twist pins on some monitor mounts. We'll check that out. And then you've got your recessed USB port for camera control. So that's like the same as you see on the BM5, which is nice. It's protected, it's built in, it's nothing extra. On this side, you've got your HDMI in and HDMI loop out. Now I appreciate having that. I love the BM5, but it doesn't have HDMI out, only SDI. So that can be useful sometimes, as well as your headphone jack. And then on the back, you've just got the battery plate, which is a one-way battery plate. It doesn't take LPE6 batteries like some monitors do. It takes only NPF batteries. Like I said, it's 1700 nit. It takes 13 watts of power, which is reasonable for a 1700 nit monitor. But if you're using smaller batteries, you might run out in maybe an hour, hour and a half on the smallest size NPF batteries. So you might want to use larger batteries or the external power cable like this, which you usually want to do with a higher brightness monitor anyway. And you've got the little pin here to release the battery. It's recessed in there, so you're not going to accidentally push it. I've never had a problem with that, but just in case, it is recessed in there. It does not actually come with a sun screen though, sun hood, which is interesting. So that's about it. So we're just going to power this on, get it connected to a camera, and I believe they have a new user interface. So we'll see exactly how well that works. Anyway, let's get it on the camera. All right, so before we jump into take a quick look at the new user interface, just a couple of quick things to mention is that I'm not going to go super in depth into everything that's built into here because the user interface is something that's always updated, and if I make this video today, it's going to be outdated tomorrow, and if I make it tomorrow, it'll be outdated a week from then. But basically, you'll get an idea for how things work, and there are a few things in there that I want to highlight as we go through it. But we're going to start off just by showing you the power on time. So I have it off now, and we'll power it on, and you can see from making the switch physically how long it takes. There we go, probably about 10 seconds or so to actually turn on. So if you're concerned about that, there we go. And right now I have the fan turned off. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Not off, I guess. It's on the lowest setting, which is basically off. But there is a fan in here just like with the BM5, and it has 3 settings. It's all touchscreen compatible. All the menus are touchscreen compatible, and I recommend using it that way. The buttons are a bit clunky. I don't know if you can see this up on top, but again, the menu button is in the center of the 2 arrow buttons, which I always find to be a little bit weird. So I would imagine 2 arrow buttons should be together and then menu separately. So open the menu and then up and down. Feels more natural for me, but it's up arrow, menu, down arrow, and then exit, and it's weird. I don't like it. You've only got 4 function buttons. You get a lot more functionality out of actually using the touchscreen. So that's mainly what we're going to focus on today. So to do anything with a touchscreen, basically you'll tap it once and it will bring up this kind of display around it, and swiping in different directions will bring you to different menus here. So this first menu is basically where you're going to add all of your custom functions, and you can see the little plus sign as you click plus. It'll show you all of the different functions that are built into there, and you can add them in. You can add a bunch of them. So if I just keep pressing plus, you can see they load on the left side and also on the right side. You can add a ton of custom functions into this and then turn them on and off just by tapping them. So if you want to re-customize something, just select it, and then let's say I want to turn on as my first one RGB waveform, and then my second one, let's go to peaking, and so on. And then if I made too many, I want to get rid of these, just click delete down at the bottom and you're good to go. Before I go on with this, I actually want to load some LUTs into here because it's hard to show you anything with like focus peaking, for example, when there's a really flat image coming into here. So I'm going to go ahead and load LUTs into here first. You can also see down the bottom when you tap it, it'll give you all the basic information, your signal. It'll tell you if your LUT is on or off, the brightness, the fan, and the battery status. So that's really, really nice too. But we're going to actually swipe right, and that will bring us into our kind of more basic type of menu. Go over to LUT, which is the cube icon, and then I'm going to plug in a USB first, and then go over to USB looks, and that will bring us into the menu for loading LUTs in from our USB. So click on that, on C, and then I'm going to go into Z, which is, I'm going to go into new. And then I have all of these LUTs here. I'm going to go for my AR33 overexposed, and you can just double tap on that and it will load it very straightforward. Okay, you see the little disk icon next to it, that means it's loaded. So we're going to go back now, click return. Sorry, let me go return, return, return. Sorry, I'm double clicking here when I shouldn't be. And then we're going to click the X on the top corner when we're done here. Now you can see there's a lot on there. Let's go ahead and swipe right to bring us back to our custom functions. Turn on that peaking, whatever. You can see around the edges there that it's sharp. But what I wanted to show you now was how to customize these functions. Excuse the technical difficulties. I'm sure a lot of this won't come through on the camera either. But if you want to customize these any further or change their settings or anything like that, hold down on that icon and swipe to the right. Let me see if I can do this here. Of course, on camera, everything is harder to do on camera. Once you touch it and swipe to the right, you'll see that these function customization menu comes up at the bottom here. So for peaking, for example, you could turn it off and on with that little toggle switch. Now this is one of the points that I really wanted to point out, which is cool. For peaking, you've got a few different styles. Now original style is original style. It's typical focus peaking. If you go to the next option, it's black and white style. And now this is a black and white image that still retains that colored focus peaking. So it makes it a bit easier to see. Let me dial up the sensitivity to 10 so that way it'll hopefully come through on camera a little bit better. Then you can also go into grayscale, which is low. This is, you can barely see your image. It's really, really dark, but you can see that focus peaking by contrast a lot easier. And then you can even take it further to go really, really deep. And I feel like the names here are actually reversed. This should be middle, and then now this is low. But you can see that there are a few different modes. High is obviously, yeah, it's all black. You know, there's a few different modes that you can go darker and darker with your image, so that way that peaking stands out. And I think that either the regular black and white or the next darker option is actually really nice and clear to see when you're trying to pull focus. Anyway, other than that, you've got the basic adjustments. If you go over to your waveform, for example, you can turn on the RGB waveform. It kind of messes up a little bit. Let me turn this peaking off for a second here. Peaking off, waveform. So now you can blend it, of course, with different opacities. You can change the brightness of the actual graph itself. You can turn on warnings and stuff like that. You can also adjust the size a little bit and the position. So this is all very straightforward and easy to use. Clicking the arrow here will bring you back to that basic menu where you can go and toggle things on and off just by tapping their icon here. And then again, you can load this way up with a bunch, and there's a ton of different things built into here. All right, so that was swiping to the right and swiping to the left. You get these custom functions, or you get the basic menu here. If you swipe down, then it's going to bring you into your camera control menu. So this is going to depend a lot on which camera you have. I'm not going to bother showing you because there's a ton of different cameras out there. But this is kind of the new user interface for that. And if you swipe up, then it's going to bring you to the control for the tilde follow focus there. And again, I don't have that, so this is the way it looks. And again, this may develop over time a bit more, so I'm not going to try and date this video by showing you too much in terms of specifics, but this is how their new interface works. It's like a swiping system. Tap to open or close those menus, and then swipe to go from custom functions to the basic menu, to your camera control, to your follow focus control, and then tap to close that out. Pretty straightforward. If you swipe while nothing is open, nothing happens, so you got to tap to open that up first. And then this is very easy to use. Again, if you want to turn these things on and off, just tap them individually. And then if you want to customize them more, hold and swipe to the right side. You got all those customizations down at the bottom. And as is typical for Portkeys, you have a good amount of customization, some really good things, including that grayscale focus peaking mode, which does help. So one more thing I did want to show you before we close this out is that if you go into this kind of main menu here and you have the picture tab selected, then your first setting is brightness. And before you had low, middle, and high in terms of your screen brightness for the BM5, but now you can go down from 0 all the way up to 10. So it's a lot more fine tunable, I guess you could say. And then if you go into your little cog icon there, you have the fan options again, low, middle, and high, and that's the same. Can you hear it? That's pretty much the same as with the BM5, and the amount of noise that each of those levels makes, low, medium, and high, seems to be about the same as the fan in the BM5. But all in all, I think this is a pretty incredible monitor. If you don't need the SDI or metal build of the BM5, I think this is going to be an incredible choice, actually. It's still pretty bright. The build quality is not terrible, and it has a lot going for it. I mean, you've got camera control, you've got external power with that locking connection, you've got HDMI in and loop out, and there's a lot more to this too. It can work with the wireless module for the Blackmagic cameras. There's a lot more that I haven't really dove into yet, and this new operating system is pretty decent, I think. It still could have a few bugs that I think need to be worked out, but again, it's going to be developing from here. This is very new for Portkeys, and I think they're doing a good thing with the way that they're developing their user interface. Is it my favorite monitor? I'm still going to say no, but it comes close. It does a good job, and while it's not my favorite monitor, I would absolutely not complain about having this as my monitor to use. And And if this is in your price range, or if you like it for whatever other reason, I would say that you'll be very satisfied with it. And again, there's a lot of things like camera control, the Bluetooth module, things like that that you don't get with other cameras, with other monitors. So if that's something that has piqued your interest about Portkeys, then I think this is going to be a great choice. If you're going between the BM5 and this one, it's just going to be a matter of that metal build, SDI connections, and a little bit of money. But if you have any remaining questions, again, it's hard to go into specifics because every situation, every camera is a lot different. But if you have any other general questions about this monitor, please do let me know down below and I will do my best to get back to you. But if you like this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.